इतना सफर है कुछ होने में और बहुत कुछ होने में, एक बार सोच के छोड़ देने में और लग के कर दिखाने में, मान लेने में कि जिंदगी ऐसे ही कटेगी और सुबह 4 बजे उठ के सोचने में कि अभी तो बस शुरुआत है। किसी मैगजीन को हाथ में लेने में और उसी मैगजीन के कवर पेज पे होने में इतना सा ही तो फर्क है। वीआईपी सीट में और उसकी पिछली सीट में इतना सा ही तो फर्क है। वो जिसका मैदान ही खुला आसमान है वही कल जमीन पर तो था। पूछोगे तो बताएगा वो पंछी कि एक दायरे में सिमटने में और पूरी दुनिया को दायरा बनाने में बस इतना सा फर्क है। इतना कितना है? इतना है या इतना है? जो नापेगा वो जाने कि जहां धरती और आसमान मिलते हैं, नानकुर से दूर, अगर मगर शायद से दूर, वहां भी दोनों में फर्क बस इतना सा है। धरती और 7वें आसमान में फर्क बस इतना सा है। ये एक अंतर प्रेरणा है। ये हमारी, आपकी, हम सब की अंतर प्रेरणा है। एक कदम, एक छलांग, एक बाजी, एक गहरी सांस और एक ललकार खुली हवाओं में कि हाँ मैं बना हूं उन फिजाओं के लिए, कि हाँ मैं बना हूं उन ऊंचाइयों के लिए जो ऊंची तो बहुत है पर नामुमकिन भी नहीं, क्योंकि मुमकिन और नामुमकिन में बस इतना सा फर्क है। धूप छांव में फर्क बस इतना सा। तो बस चलिए फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया के साथ ये फर्क मिटा देते हैं। फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया, 20 years of ideas.
Good afternoon, everyone. With great hope that everybody is keeping well, we welcome each one of you to a representation of the brand through business opportunity, which this is an attempt from our side to the brand of the day so that you digitally interact with the brand representative and will take all your queries. India, the brand which was established in 1999 is helping all the investors in getting the business solution on our side. And we truly claim no one sells more business than 1,000 of international and national their business with our plus offices. We will franchise India. Sir and Sonia ma'am, the flow of the will invite and welcome for the day all your queries. The brand which Franchise India team is today is Driftress Tap Station. And we are taking you today is the first microbrew providing variety of handcrafted European. And welcome Mr. Rashish, who will be talking about the. If we get chance, we'll take you through the live virtual tour of also. Thank you so much, Ashish, for sparing time today about this great brand with each and every attendees who are over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me here today. So this is Ashish. I am a marketing consultant for Drifters Tap Station. So we're currently situated in Mumbai. We have one tap room in Bandra West. And apart from that, as we all know, recently during the COVID is when the Maharashtra government, the excise, actually allowed craft breweries to sell the beers in growler or in PET bottles, in 1 liter PET bottles. So we also have 3 tap growler stations in Mumbai currently. So right now I'm seated out of the Bandra West tap room, which is right next to which is right in the KFC lane. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly take everybody through the presentation that we have here for the Drifters Tap Station franchisee that we are pitching right now. Just going to quickly share my screen. So is my screen visible?
Yes, Ashish. Thank you
All right,
so much.
perfect. So should we just should we wait for a few more people to join in, or should we begin with the
We'll
presentation?
start. We'll start, Ashish.
We'll begin. Okay, perfect. So kind of give you a brief or a slight insight in the brand Drifters. Right? So Drifters as a brand was started around 2 years ago with the first outlet in Lower Parel in Kamla Mills. Right? So that outlet was a relatively bigger outlet, but then there were a few issues after the whole fire incident that happened in Kamla Mills. So we unfortunately had to shut that one down, and we opened a new outlet in BKC. BKC being the commercial center or the commercial hub of Mumbai. The location was pretty apt for a beer station or for a tap room per se, because people usually would love to drop by for a cold pint of beer after a long day of work, right? So now, kind of to give you a gist about why Drifters, or kind of give you an insight in the brand. So, like I said, the brand was started around 3 years ago by the couple, the founding couple, Mr. Nayan and his wife Sheetal Shah, hailing from a construction background. The both of them love beers, and 4 or 5 years ago, they kind of went on a complete Europe tour to search for the best craft beers in Europe. Why Europe? Because obviously Europe and Germany, especially being the center of the whole beer revolution, or the whole the beer culture in Europe. So they kind of went through the major beer hubs in Europe, being Germany, being Czech Republic, France, even Italy and Spain for that matter, to find the best craft beers that were available, to learn about the styles of beers. To add to that, Nayan also got himself a degree in brewing, which kind of helped him brew the beers that we currently brew at the outlet. So Mr. Honza Koch, our original brewmaster from Prague. So he was the one who, you know, got into a conversation with Nayan and Sheetal and helped them about understanding, what the kind of different beers are that are famous in Europe. That's when the whole idea of Drifters, or as a tap room or as a brewery, was, you know, kind of that's where the inception lies. So this was around 4 to 5 years ago, after which obviously they got back to Bombay. They started looking for a place and set up the brewery in Pune. So the brewery set up at say around 25 to 30 kilometers on the outskirts of Pune, in a small town called Sanaswadi. It's a state-of-the-art brewery. Honza himself helped us set up the brewery. He helped us set up the logistics in place with regards to how the brewing should happen. He set up the processes for getting the malts and the hops right from his hometown in Prague. So a lot of malts that we use are imported. So we ourselves have an importer's license that we use to import all these hops and malts from, majorly from Prague, and obviously from a few other cities in Europe. So like I said, the brewery was set up in Sanaswadi in Pune around 4 years ago. The operations started around set up our first tap room in Bombay. So obviously, maybe a year before that was when all the trials happened, and the three of them with Honza as the core of the brewing team. Obviously, with Nayan on his side because he also has a brewmaster's degree. So they kind of went through a lot of different recipes for beers. Obviously, trying to adapt the beers to the palate of us here back in India. Because obviously, if you give an Indian a very typically European beer, there are chances that we may not like it. So we had to obviously adapt the taste, the the ABU or the alcohol percentage, as we call it, to match the excise guidelines here in Maharashtra. And that's how we kind of came up with an initial 20 to 24 beers that you know will go really well with the Indians. So when we are talking about the beer styles, we're not really looking at only Indians with regards to the tasting or the palate. Because we were in BKC, we would get a lot of expat crowd also. So we had to stick to a few beers which were traditionally European, and we had to stick to them to the T to kind of retain the authenticity, retain the recall value for a lot of people who are maybe now living in India but are originally from say Germany or say a Czech Republic, right? So that's how we kind of going between the authentic beers, and then obviously we took on our own versions of a few beers using the local ingredients. So as you can see here, we have something called as the Kokum cider. Now, an apple cider is something that's very famous. That's very much known as a cider around the globe. Why Kokum? Because obviously Maharashtra, the western region of Maharashtra, which obviously is the coastal belt, we are known for a variety of ingredients that are very typical to the whole Maharashtra Goa stretch, including kokum, including coconut also. So that's how we kind of went around with experimenting with different ingredients to kind of get that right balance between a good potent beer and something that's going to be a very easy palatable beer. Now, something like a Kokum cider is a brilliant beer for people in Mumbai, especially to drink because of the hot summers that we have over here. It's a perfect afternoon beer, to be honest. Along with that, then we also kind of infused, ingredients like a basmati. Basmati again, which is sourced locally from regions in Maharashtra, kind of make the blonde that we have. Now, the blonde will be typically similar to, say, a Budweiser in terms of the bottled beer range, right? And then we obviously have the standard, which is the Hefeweizen, the Belgian wheat, and then the Pilsner, the stout. So these are the different styles of beers. And then what we have done is we've gone a step further and experimented or say introduced a few ingredients which are available locally and used them to infuse these beers to kind of give it a very Indian touch. Now, when you coming to the food part of it, we at Drifters really believe that food is something that will obviously keep your regular patrons coming back for more. Yes, we are giving you brilliant beers, but then at the same time, we do not want to kind of turn a blind eye towards the food aspect of it, because obviously, when you are coming to a restaurant, you are coming to a tap room, you're predominantly coming to enjoy the beers that we have to offer, but then you're not just going to drink, you're going to eat something, you're going to munch onto something while you're having the beers. And that's when we kind of made a very elaborate menu, which is a good mix of European as well as Indian food, with a few Oriental dishes that kind of are the crowd favorites. So the ones that you see on the screen right now are some of the favorites that we have at the outlet, and these kind of go really well with the beers that we have pouring at our outlets currently. So again, like I said, food is something that will always be a focal point in the operations of the restaurant. Now coming to the outlet itself. So now the picture that you see over here is actually the BKC outlet, uh, which is about 2,800 square feet. So now the 2,800 square feet kind of includes your seating or the dining area, as we call it, and the kitchen, along with a cold room for the beers. So how the operational aspect of the brewing, or rather the brewery works, the beers are not brewed on premises here at the outlet. The beers are brewed in the brewery, which, like I mentioned before, is present at Sanaswadi on the outskirts of Pune. And we then transport the beer from the brewery to the outlet in kegs. So it can be a 50 or a 20-liter keg, depending on how fast that particular style of beer is moving in the outlet. All right. So the BKC outlet had a big cold room, which kind of acted as a storage for the beers. Also, kind of kept the beers at the right temperature that we wanted the beers to be served at. Apart from that, the interiors, as you can see, we have always stuck to a very rustic, a very green, like like a greenery based a natural look to the place. Why? Because we believe that beers are the best enjoyed when seating outdoors. But unfortunately, the Mumbai weather does not really allow us to kind of have too many outdoor seatings. So what we usually do is the interior is designed in a way which kind of will give you a feel that, okay, maybe you're sitting at an outdoor space and having a beer. So this outlet, as you can see, was actually a pretty big outlet, and what it kind of also did was it kind of helped us in giving that space to the people. So all the tables are not really cramped up together. We kind of ensured that no two tables are within, say, around at least 2 to 3 feet of each other. Why? And this was actually a thought even before the whole COVID came into the scenario. The reason why I wanted to do that is because we want people to come and have a good time. We don't want people to be sitting too close to a table that's right next to them, because obviously we want people to have their space. We want people to feel that they are not sitting in a cramped up space, and they are kind of sitting in a space where they can be themselves, enjoy a good beer, have a good time with their friends, colleagues, family, whoever it is, and then head back home with a very happy heart. So that's the whole reason why we make sure that the outlets are relatively bigger, and we're not really cramping up the space in the outlet with too many tables and chairs. So that is a very conscious thought that we will stick to. Now, we were actually fortunate enough to have a big enough space in this particular outlet to have an actual beer pong table. So the beer pong table not only helped to add another aspect of an aesthetic sense to the place, but also kind of help people to unwind, have a good time with their friends once at the outlet. Now, along with beer pong, we also had a lot of board games, which kind of were just kept around the place, and anybody who was coming down to the outlet could use just pick up any board game and have a good time with it. So like I said, this is how the interiors kind of look like. Now you can see here, the image on the left is, you can see black colored wall. So that kind of briefly depicted the brewing process. Why had we, like, the idea behind having that wall was to kind of give people an idea, or give people a slight insight about how the beer that they're consuming is actually made. So that kind of depicts the brewing process. Now, in these pictures, the picture on the left, if you can see you can see the bar right at the end of the wall, and then right in front of the bar, we had a long community table. So if you're a bigger group of around 16 people, you can take the table to yourself. If not, then the idea of the community table was to kind of give the place a feel. If anybody of you has been to the Oktoberfest that happens in Munich every year, right? So they usually have community tables, so where strangers can actually sit together and share a beer and share, maybe their stories around beers or their stories around their travel or anything for that matter. So the whole idea was to kind of get people together, form a community around the beers that we are brewing, right? So that's where the community table kind of came in handy. Now, yeah, so these are the pictures of the brewery itself, which is in Sanaswadi. Like I said, it's around 30 kilometers from Vimannagar, which is a very famous area in Pune. So now, if you look at the brewing capacity of a lot of other breweries, it will be around 10 to 15,000 liters a month. Now, the actual brewing capacity that we have at this brewery setup is around 30,000 liters. On an average, one outlet will consume about 6 to 7,000 liters of beer in a month. So that's just the consumption of one uh, outlet in, say, a Bombay, in a good area in Bombay. So if you're considering around 7,000 liters a month, times 7,000 times 4 is around 30,000. That's 28,000 to be precise. So that's the kind of expansion, or that's the kind of capacity to expand that we currently have with us. Like I said, we are currently brewing around 7,000 liters per month for our outlets and the growler stations in Bombay. Yes, the number is slightly lower right now because obviously we are not opening our restaurant from afternoon, or we're not opening a restaurant from morning. We are keeping the restaurant open only from to closing. Obviously, because of the whole COVID guidelines and even the delivery that has started, if you kind of consider everything together, it's going to be around 7 to 8,000 liters a month that we are currently brewing at this setup. So we're also supplying to a few restaurants in Bombay and Pune. So how it works is we kind of give them a different beer or different specialty beer every fortnight or every month, depending on their consumption at the outlet. What that kind of, or how we can manage was, we currently have uh, the capacity that can kind of allow us to brew around 24 to 25 different types or different styles of beers on an ongoing process, right? So what that kind of does is, we as a brand have that much more, or we have those many more beers or more styles of beers under our belt to kind of talk about. So if there's a restaurant kind of taking beer from us, we can actually give them a different style of beer every other week or every other fortnight, depending on what kind of beer they want. So that's how uh, we kind of add a different beer to the portfolio of that particular outlet every week or every 2 weeks, depending on whenever they're taking the beers from us. So now coming to the franchise bit, right? So like I said, we have 24 handcrafted beers right now. Now we have actually added a few more beers, which are the rotational or seasonal beers, as we like to call it. So we have around 4 or 5 different seasonal beers that we have brewed till now. So we obviously don't add them here because they are seasonal. They are not being brewed on an ongoing basis. So to give you an example, we had brewed a an Alfonso wit, which is a Belgian wit, which usually uses orange to kind of give it a flavor. We had in fact substituted the orange with mangoes during the months of March to May. So these are a kind of different seasonal or experimental beers that we kind of introduce depending on what season we are in. So we are not we haven't added those beers over here. So the 24 beers that we are talking about are the ones that are brewed on an ongoing basis. So at any time in the brewery, you will always find 20 to 24 different styles of beers that are ready to be dispatched to maybe the outlet or to the growler stations. So when we are looking at a potential outlet, we are looking at around 20 feet to give that kind of an experience that we want our guests to have, right? So when we are looking at a smaller outlet, what happens is, like I said before, the space is going to be cramped up. There's not going to be enough space for people to move around. So the idea is to kind of have a bigger space wherein people can actually move about at the outlet, maybe drink a beer on their own table, do whatever they want. So we are looking at around 2,500 square feet as the area for a potential drifters outlet. Now, like I said before, we obviously have, along with the beers, we always and we will have a lot of different food that, or the menu will always be a cycle, a slightly changing menu. Will add a few dishes, will take out a few dishes depending on what is being liked by people, what is not being liked by people. So we have that kind of a liberty that we give ourselves to try different things on the food menu as well. Obviously, if it's a Pune outlet that we are looking at, the menu might be different than a Bombay outlet because simple reason for the taste people in the Pune city will have as compared to a Bombay. So just a kind of gist about what we as a brand will be giving our partners whenever we start a new franchise. Like I said, 24 different beers on tap, unique interiors. Like I mentioned before, we will be looking at a very spacious outlet from the inside. In a city like Pune, obviously we'll be looking at an outdoors section because the weather kind of allows us to do that. Value for money, yes. If you look at the pricing on the food menu or the beer menu, it's not something that's very expensive. It's something that's very easy on your pockets, something that's not going to be burning a hole in your pockets if you're stepping out for a meal for two, or even if a meal for with your family. Right now, currently, at this outlet in Bandra, we are only serving beer and wine. We haven't really started the entire bar selection yet, which we might do maybe after a few months, depending on how the whole COVID scenario unfolds going forward. But yes, we are open to that. We are not really looking at only a beer and a wine space. We are looking at giving people what they want. So if there's a group of four, it's not necessary that all four of them are going to be drinking beer. So we do understand that, and that's why we want to kind of have a fully stacked bar at the outlet. Sustainable business model, strong focus on handcrafted beers, obviously because we are a brewery. Beers is our core strength. Beer is something that we are really proud of. And then that's obviously going to be the USP or the prime focus of the brand going forward, along with food on the side, of course. High quality beer brewed using imported Czech malts and hops. Like I said before, yes, we do get our malts and hops from the Czech Republic. Not maybe all the ingredients, but a majority of our ingredients come from the Czech Republic. A continuous upgradation of the menu. Like I said before, we have changed the menu depending on which area, which locality we are opening an outlet in. So that kind of speaks for itself that yes, the food be adapted to the location that we are going to be present at, to the kind of crowd that we are catering to. Strong training and HR policies. Yes, training is very important. The way we look at it when it comes to selling a beer to a guest. A lot of so craft beer in India is increasing by the day. The popularity of it is increasing by the day, but still a lot of people who are relatively newer to the concept or the market of craft beers, they don't really know what beer should they maybe try to be. They don't really know what beer would they like, since they are not really aware of the different styles of beers. That's where a strong training for our staff comes in handy, because that's when the staff will be able to cut through that barrier between the guest and him and explain to him what kind of beers would they actually maybe like going for. That's where a strong training, a well-trained staff will come in handy in explaining to the people what are the different styles of beers, how they are brewed, and what beer will kind of go well with what kind of food. So that's why we always have been very strong when it comes to the training bit of it, to the staff, to the bar team especially, and also the service team with regards to what food good to pair with what kind of a beer. So the whole food and beer pairing also is very important when it comes to a good dining experience, and that's where a good, rather a well-trained staff comes in handy. Smooth backend operations, yes, we will help you with vendors for the food if you want. We'll help you with the vendors for liquor, and obviously everything and anything that goes on behind the stage. We'll be obviously helping you with how the beer is to be served, how the beer has to be stored, right from there to the end aspect, wherein setting up the entire accounting system, setting up the entire inventory system for the new outlet. So that's what we bring to the table also. Now, let's look at the model that we are looking at when it comes to a new franchise. So we are looking at a franchise owned company operated kind of a model. Why? Because there will be a franchisees that will probably open, but they may not be able to handle the operations the way we have been doing in the past. So as a brand, Drifters as a brand has a certain ethos, has a certain guidelines that we stick to when it comes to operating the outlet. So there are a lot of things that kind of go in when it comes to the operations of. We want the outlet to kind of be stable. We want those operations to be going on as per the standard operations across all the outlets, and that's why we will set up the SOPs for the outlet, for any new outlet that we kind of join hands with. That kind of comes in handy because we obviously have a good experience in running, in managing restaurants. That's what we get to the table when it comes to opening a new outlet. We will obviously do the whole training initially. We'll do all the pre-opening formalities. We'll do all the pre-opening mandates with regards to training, right from the kitchen to the service staff, setting up the menu. So all of those things is wherein we come in the picture. That kind of takes the stress, or that kind of takes the headache away from the potential investor with regards to who's going to operate the outlet. So it's we who's going to operate the outlet for you guys, and obviously everything right from the beginning to whatever is going to be needed to open an outlet, and also later on is something that we will be handling. So that's why we are going to stick to a franchise zone and a company operated model when it comes to the franchisee outlets. Now, like I said, these are a few parameters that I would like to take everybody through when it comes to starting a new outlet. Like I said, the format is going to be a franchise zone company operated. The total investment that we are looking at is about 1.5 CR. So a very common question would be, what is included in this amount? So to kind of take you through that would be, you would be looking at the initial setup of the place, the interiors of the place, the licensing with from the excise for the alcohol license. Along with that, obviously the FSSAI, the fire, and all of the required mandatory licenses would be taken care of by this amount. The category that we fall in is a restaurant pub. The franchise fee would be a one-time franchise fee of 15 lakh rupees that would be payable at the onset of the agreement. So obviously we can look at the terms, conversations with the potential investors. The royalty and the management fees. Now, this is something that will have to be paid to the brand by the investor every month. Now, that's the 10% of the total sale value of the outlet. That would be a recurring amount payable to the brand by the investor every month. At the end of the month, we sit across the table, we go through the that's how we land up at the royalty and the management fees value. The next obviously is the marketing contribution. So now what we mean by marketing contribution is the total spend by or for the outlet on the marketing collaterals or any marketing activity. So now that usually adds up to around 1.5% of the total sale value. Now this is only a tentative amount that we are talking about. It will obviously differ for different months, depending on what kind of events we're looking at, depending on what kind of marketing activities we are looking at. So that's a tentative amount, which is around 1.5% of the total sale value. The payback of the entire investment is around 18 months. That's 1 year, 6 months. And the total franchise agreement would be for 5 years. Now the financial model will be sent across to the potential investors at a later stage. Once we kind of get into a conversation, we have ticked all the right boxes initially. That's when we kind of will send across the financial model to the potential investor, and we'll be taking it from there. Now, like we are talking about here is the attributes of an ideal franchisee profile. Now, there are a lot of things that I kind of come into the picture here when we talk about starting a franchise. Now, the location, I would say, is really important because obviously with a good location comes a good crowd. With a good crowd of what craft beer is about. That's what we are looking at. We're looking at a good location. We are looking at somebody who maybe has some form of or some, even if not experience, a keen interest in running a restaurant, a keen interest in operating a restaurant, and obviously the operational skills that come along with it. The final bandwidth, yes, because when you're talking about setting up a new restaurant, you obviously we need to understand that no restaurant is going to hit break even in the first month itself. So we obviously have to kind of have that bandwidth to sustain the running costs, sustain the operational costs of the business, at least for the first 3 to 6 months. That's the tentative bracket that we look at for knowing about a particular restaurant, people knowing about a new brand opening at a particular new location, and so on and so forth. That's where again, like I had mentioned before, the marketing skills come in the picture, wherein if somebody's from say a particular area and they have a pretty good contact with people, they know a lot of people around, they know a lot of uh, you know obviously the marketing bit will come in handy over here when it comes to announcing to the audience that okay, we have opened a new outlet in a new location. That's what we are also comes to a new franchisee outlet. So like we said, the tap room that we are currently in, that I'm seated in right now, is in Bandra West. So in Mumbai we are looking at a few potential areas being Juhu, Malad West, say around Link Road, and Powai. Powai is also a very good hub for craft beers. And we know that for a fact because we have a growler station in Chandivli, which is catering to the Powai orders, and it's doing phenomenally well. So we know that Powai is a good market for craft beers. In Pune, we are looking at a Banir Balewadi, that triangle, or then the Koregaon Park, Viman Nagar, Kalin Nagar triangle. So that's the potential areas that we are looking for in Pune. Uh, Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities in Maharashtra could be, say, a Nagpur, maybe a Nasik. So those are the Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities that we might look at after, a Bombay and a Pune. Now the microbrewery, like I said, so in Mumbai, the brewery is based out of Pune. So we are currently catering to the growler stations and the restaurant in Mumbai, and the growler station in Pune, and to a couple of restaurants in Nagpur also. So that's how these are the three areas that we are kind of catering to right now. Just a moment. Okay, so that's kind of that's a gist of the kind of operations and the kind of locations that we are looking at. So I'm going to open the forum for any questions or any queries that you might have right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashish, for coming in and joining us today and giving us this presentation. I would say it's been very elaborate, and craft beer in India has seen, I would say, in the last few years, immense popularity, and it has led to the growth of microbrewery business and subsequently tap rooms, which we are witnessing, starting from Bangalore, which was called the capital of craft beer, to Bombay, Pune, and we are seeing a big growth in these years. And also to give maybe some estimate is what we've been reading also, the per capita consumption of beer in India currently stands at about 5 liters per day, while the Asian counterpart is about 20 liters. It is even higher in US. So we are seeing a big growth trajectory in India also, which is being seen. And typically, a microbrewery business produces certain, I would say, comparatively smaller quantities of beer and cater to locations which are under certain geographic limits, because it is fresh beer which is supplied. And so location becomes one of the driving factors. And so drifters have set up their microbreweries in these two locations, which is Bombay and Pune, which has a huge investment which has gone in, which can produce or has a capacity of about 30,000 liters in a month, and they can distribute from there. And these 5 spots which they have mentioned are identified both based on their supply which can be done, and also based on the opportunity which exists in these locations. So Ashish, before I start and open the floor to questions from the audience, maybe I like to have a little bit perspective about how the overall business has moved. And because you have been in this business for quite some time, you made substantial investments in this business. If you want to give maybe a little flavor of how you've seen the last I would say few years, and how the industry is moving, and what opportunity that you see in the coming years.
Sure. So, like I mentioned, we have been having an outlet in Mumbai for the past 2 to 3 years now. What we have regularly seen at the outlet is that the kind of guests, the kind of clientele that we are getting more and more informed, are getting more knowledgeable about craft beer and the different styles of beers over the years that we have seen them coming to our outlet. To give you an example, there have been people whom I have personally interacted with at the outlet, who were staunch beer drinkers, but obviously the bottled beers, right? For them, craft beer was a completely new concept. So we had to actually break down the concept to telling them, okay, so if you want to drink, say, a lager, what is the direct comparison for a lager when it comes to a bottled beer? So maybe a Kingfisher. Or if you want to drink a blonde, then we had to explain to them that, okay, maybe the closest counterpart to this would be a Budweiser, and so on and so forth. So we have actually done that to now seeing that people are coming and having discussions with us or with the bartenders over different styles of beers, and actually giving us a very healthy feedback with regards to, even telling us slight differences between the different beers that they have tried around the city. So because it's craft beer, every batch is going to have its own individual personality. We don't have a big manufacturing unit like the bottled beers, wherein every bottle or every sip of the beer is going to taste exactly the same. I think that's the beauty of craft beers, because that's where the person who's making the beer, you can actually see effort in every glass of craft beer that you consume at a brewery, right? So yes, when to answer your question, people are definitely getting more informed. People are getting more information or more knowledge, as I would say, about different styles of beers. So the kind of crowd that we are getting, we always say maybe around 10 to 15% of our usual clientele will be, say, a repeat. Then, maybe the other 40-50% is somebody who's coming in with a friend who's been a craft beer drinker. But then the remaining people are the ones who are actually coming in to try what, a craft beer is all about. And that's how we have seen the market change over the past, say, 3 to 4 years.
Sure. Ashish, my other question would be, typically, there has been a lot of, guidelines from the government time to time, a lot of regulations, and especially it is also a state subject. Every state has a different regulation. And what I was reading, I might have little information on that. Some parts of the country, the beer you brew needs to be sold only on the premises, and where Maharashtra has an exception which allows microbreweries to produce and distribute beer without even having a tap room on site. So different
Correct.
cities have, varied limits of production, and which also impacts the size of microbrewery, one. And second, my question is also on the licenses, because it has a very complex license structure. It is important that even these tap rooms have a license. They need to have trade practices, local approvals, or even product approvals in place. So what all is required, and there are two sets of it, because one is microbrewery where, because you already run these and there are licenses which you have procured, and the other is the tap room that we are talking about. So if you can maybe talk and little bit on that, and maybe overall on the current licensing structure in the country, and maybe specifically for the state of Maharashtra, and because this is a city that you wish to expand. And if I can also add, I was seeing
Sure.
somebody from other states also, like somebody from Chennai is asking her to open. So if somebody wants to open even outside. Say Maharashtra, it would definitely need a microbrewery to be there, and then the other processes would come in. Would you want to talk on that bit too?
Sure. So like you rightly said, different states in India have different rules and regulations for craft beer. Now, and owing to that rule, uh, a beer that is brewed in a particular state cannot be sold in a different state, especially when it comes under the purview of a craft beer or a brewery, right? So we are not making bottled beers. Once we kind of get into that, then yes, we can definitely sell the beer that we are brewing here in Pune to say a Bangalore or to say a Goa, or even say Hyderabad is brilliant and an upcoming city for craft beers, right? But currently, because of the excise regulations, the beer that we are brewing in Pune can only be sold in the state of Maharashtra.
Hmm.
Now, when it comes to the tap rooms, so yes, until say maybe around May last year, the Maharashtra Excise Department had a rule wherein craft beers could only be sold on a restaurant premises, right? So if I have a restaurant, I can buy a keg from a craft brewery and have that keg on tap. So that rule was kind of changed after the whole COVID scenario came in the picture, wherein the breweries in Maharashtra, the association reached out to the excise and said that if the people can't come to the breweries, why not take the beers to them? That's when the excise gave us a go ahead with bottling beers and selling it out, or rather delivering it to guests at their homes or anywhere at their residences. So that's an aspect of the licensing which is available honestly only in Maharashtra right now at
Oh,
this moment.
sure.
Now, when it comes to the beer licenses, the licensing for the brewing is something that we will take care of, because we already have a license for brewing beers at our brewery, and we have been brewing for the past 4 years. So those licenses are kind of in place. The only licenses that the new outlet will require is your regular bar license. So if they are keen on selling only beers and wines, then it's a licensing only for beers and wines at the outlet. If the investor is also looking at having a fully stacked bar, or say maybe to sell whiskeys, gins, vodkas, cocktails, and the list goes on, then in that case we obviously need a full bar license for that particular location. So now that is something that the licensing fees will be included in the initial investment of 1.5 cr that we spoke about. That is something that we can help the investor, or we can help the outlet getting in touch with the right authorities, or getting in touch with say people who can get the licensing done for the outlet. So we obviously know a few agents who can help us with getting in touch with the authorities. Kind of makes things easier for the investor, so to say.
Sure, sure. And how about outside Maharashtra? While it would require substantial investment to open a microbrewery, would you be open to looking at any partnerships only for microbreweries, or maybe a bigger partnership where maybe a master franchisee takes care of both, microbreweries and tap rooms?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now that kind of gets us to two different aspects of it. Maybe have a microbrewery, like to give you an example, if you know of Brewbot, which was in Bombay. So they were a microbrewery. So a microbrewery is basically a small setup to brew beer, which is present on the premises of the outlet or premises of the restaurant itself. What we have is a proper brewery setup, which is not on the premises. So we get the beers from the brewery to the restaurants. But like you said, if there's a master franchisee who's keen on doing something like that, we are absolutely open open to that idea. Yes, the investments will be a lot heavier, considering that we'll have to do an entire setup over there. The licensing will be different because we'll have to take a licensing uh, from the aspect or from the perspective of microbrewery in place and not just selling a beer from the premises. So yes, the amount will be higher, but we are open to that idea also.
Sure. Ashish, now very quickly, I'll come on the investment side. You mentioned it is a franchisee-owned company-operated model where the entire investment is done by the partner and you will take care of the entire operations. And there's an ongoing fee from the investor, which is about 10% as a management fee, which goes to the company for managing the operations. And another
Correct.
is 1.5%, which becomes a marketing fee, which becomes the contribution. So how is this arrangement one, if broadly you can have understanding in whose book depreciation is captured, what kind of visibility maybe the partner would have on the ongoing business that would come in the outlet, and what role very specifically, if you want to know, the franchise partner would have to play.
So the franchise will have to take care of all the running expenses. Now, when I say running expenses, typically they will include all your food and beverage costs, all the raw material ingredients, everything, the electricity bills, the rent of the place, the salaries of the staff, the salaries of or different, say, if they want to specifically hire another, say, a marketing team or say a social media team. So those are things. So we already have those things in place, right? So what we would advise is we stick to the same team, just makes it easier for the investor to not go out and have different languages or have different things going on the same brand's page at the same time. Correct. The management fee is predominantly a fee that we would charge to take care of the outlet, to manage the outlet on behalf of the franchise, right? So we might consider having one general manager who kind of moves between outlets to manage everything, and then every restaurant having their own individual restaurant managers. So to kind of keep the, I wouldn't say the control, but to keep the standard procedures the same and uniform across all outlets.
And how does this cost structure work? So what you're saying is, while you would manage the operations, but the entire operating cost expenses are borne by the franchisee, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what is the typical earning for him? And if you can also give some maybe view on the revenues which a typical tap room generates.
Correct. Now, so the average ticket size in our restaurant in a Drifters would be around 1,000 to 1,500 rupees per person. Now, I'm including say around 2 to 3 beers with some food, right? So if it's a table for two, it would typically go around 2,500 to 3,000 rupees for a table for two. Now, again, this is a very on paper thing. It will obviously differ depending on, if there are two people who are just here to drink a lot of beer. So, we have had tables who have spent 6,000 to 7,000 between a table for two also. So coming back to your question, the revenue would be the complete sale for the month. Now, for example, if the sale for the month is say 40 lakh rupees for an outlet of say around say 70 to 80 covers. Okay. So that 40 lakh rupees is basically the total sale of the outlet. That's the revenue that the outlet gets. How we are kind of keeping the costs low is something that we'll take care of. The total sale is around 45 lakhs, and the total costs incurred at the outlet, including the rents and all the factors that I mentioned before, if that is say 20 lakhs, then the margin, that 25 lakh rupees, is basically the profit for the investor. The management fee.
What percentages, if you can give maybe a broad understanding, on what percentage ideally should be left after taking out all the expenses one, and what visibility he would have, because on one side he will take care of all the expenses, but what kind of visibility are we providing him on, the overall operations and the costing?
So when you talk about the visibility, I'm assuming you're talking about how is that person going to be associated with the restaurant, and how do people know that okay, this particular restaurant belongs to, say, a person ABC. Is that correct?
No, my visibility would mean, because he would be a partner who would not get involved in operations while he's taking care of all the expenses. So what kind of visibility you would have on these expenses and these costs.
Okay,
One,
okay, okay, okay.
and if you say 40 lakhs is an average of what a tap room can make, so typically what percentage can be a profit for him end of the day?
Okay, so when you're talking about the visibility or the transparency bit, when it comes to the expenses incurred by the restaurant, right? What happens is you are looking at. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so when you're looking about when you're talking about that, so the investor can obviously assign one person to sit at the outlet and kind of go through all the bills and the accounts of the running expenses and day-to-day sale of the outlet also.
Okay.
Right, so that is what we are looking at. And then after that is when we look at the if you're looking at the profit, right? So it would be around 10 to 15% after the break even.
Okay, so 10 to 15% is what he can take back net home after all these expenses are met.
Yes.
Okay. And Ashish, I'll take some questions which I've tried picking some while I ask these, and especially when it comes to Bombay, I have one of our viewers. I saw his query, Mr. Sudarshan Walkar. Because you mentioned Bombay also, 3 spots in Bombay where you wish to go. He wants to know if
Yes.
locations like Vashi, Nerul, which are suburbs, Navi Mumbai, these are locations you wish to enter to.
Oh yes, absolutely. So Vashi, Navi Mumbai, yes. Even Thane for that matter. Thane is also a pretty upcoming market when it comes to the spending capacity of people. So we, in fact, the BKC outlet would get a lot of people from Mulund and Thane, and we had a lot of people telling us that why don't you look at, say, a place in Thane, something like a Hiranandani in Thane.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we are completely open to Vashi, Navi Mumbai. Even Airoli also is a pretty good area to start with. So yes.
Okay. And what happens, we talked about a period of 5 years for the agreement with the partner. So what happens at the end of this tenure? Is it renewed with the partner? Is there subsequent fees that he ends up paying after the 5-year contract is over? How does it work out after these 5 years are concluded?
Yes, absolutely. So if after a period of 5 years, if there is there's still a scope that yes, we do want to continue forward, and if both the parties are okay to it, we'll definitely look at an extension.
And you also mentioned, Ashish, I think there are 5 spots I think everybody has seen between Bombay and Pune. And you also mentioned tier 2 cities also in Maharashtra. So which of these cities would be your priority outside Bombay and Pune to enter?
Right. So like we'd be looking at Nasik and Nagpur. These are the 2 cities that we currently are keen on.
Okay.
Nagpur, we have had a presence for a while now. So we have been supplying beers to a restaurant over there.
Okay.
And the sale and the consumption has been pretty good, considering it's a tier 2 city and relatively new for craft beers. Right. So we in fact had even participated in a couple of beer festivals that happened in Nagpur. And we were in fact surprised to kind of see the outcome, or to see the kind of a turnout both those beer festivals had. So yes, Nagpur and Nasik are also on the cards.
Great. I think Nagpur is, and both these locations are interesting. Ashish, before we
Yes.
close, we do see people, and I think we need some more understanding and clarity on maybe the financial relationship and association that would work out between you as well as a prospective partner. And can we suggest maybe a date in the next week, first week of March, that we can keep and we can bring some of the potential partners to you for a meeting or a call, one? And second, because you're operating out of Bombay, which are the locations where somebody can come and also maybe experience the tap rooms?
So to talk about the tap room, we are currently only in Mumbai. But if somebody wants to, get a taste of the beers that we are currently brewing, we are also having, we are pouring at a gas station in Koregaon Park. It's by the name Drifters itself. So it's a growler station. So it's not a place where you can sit and actually
Sure.
drink your beer. But as we mentioned before, you can take your beer home with you. So we kind of serve beers in a 1 liter PET bottle and 1 and 2 liter glass growlers.
Okay. And Bombay, where can somebody visit? And I will request everybody who's from Bombay, and rather if we can have maybe a meeting which can be aligned at the tap room itself, I feel that would be a good thing to be considered, Ashish.
Yes,
So,
yes,
which is the
absolutely.
place? Yeah. So, which is the place in Bombay? If you can maybe announce for the interest of people who are in Bombay and would like to visit, which is the place where somebody can actually visit and see?
So in Bombay, the tap room is currently open at Link Road, Bandra West. So if people know where the KFC, which is pretty famous, so landmark in Bandra West on Link Road. So lane that goes inside, we are on 24th Road, which so you basically come inside from KFC and the first right. So the logo is pretty visible from the main road also.
And also, it's a big, which is almost 100-seater. I think that's what you mentioned about 100-seater place.
Yes, yes.
That's a big
So
one.
we have a pretty big, uh, a relatively decent enough outdoor seating also. So the outdoor section itself, the open area that, as we call it, that can seat around 50 odd people. And then we also have a seating on the first floor.
Okay, very helpful. So, any date, Ashish, you want to suggest for the upcoming week?
The first week of March.
Yeah. So today is 24th. So any date,
Today
I
is
think we
the
missed one.
24th, yes.
So you think 5th or 6th is something where we can align some calls or meeting with the.
Sure, works.
Great. So I think we'll lock
Absolutely.
5th at the moment, which is 6th of March. And in the meantime, we'll request our friends who have come on the webinar, our teams will reach out to you. You may come back on the questions. We have our hotline number in the chat
Sure.
that you can see. Ashna, I'll request you can put a hotline number, and we can have a prospective interested partners who can reach out and we line up a call or a meeting with Mr. Ashish. And before we close, Ashish, maybe I'll request if there's a message that you want to convey to the audience who's listening to you.
So, like we said before, we are here to kind of give the best possible support to our franchise partners. Obviously, with the kind of brewing capacity that we have at the brewery, we have that cushion, or other we have that potential that we can stretch to another 3 to 4 outlets at least in Mumbai and Pune, and maybe another one in a tier 2 city. So like I said, please feel free to give us a call, drop by the outlet. You will understand what the outlet is all about. You'll understand what we mean when we say that we want to give that kind of a space to people. We are not looking at having too much of cramped spaces at the outlet. So you will kind of understand when I say when you actually come to the outlet and experience it firsthand, or maybe drop by the growler station, try the beers firsthand. You will definitely know what kind of business that we are here to do. And in fact, I had just spoken with Archana at the beginning of this call. I am at the outlet itself. So if you guys want, I can probably give
Quickly,
you guys a
I think
virtual
it's
tour
great
right
to
now.
just take us quickly through a tour. I'm sure this will be helpful.
Absolutely. Just a minute. Let me just gonna join in from my phone so I can.
Sure.
Okay, am I visible?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very helpful, Hashish. While we could see all the videos, we cannot hear you. I don't know if you can hear us. While we are able to see the entire video and tour of the tap room.
Okay, were you not able to hear me
We were not
throughout
able
the
to.
video?
Yeah, we were not able. We were able to see and watch. So it's a ground plus first floor. There are two floors that you have put, and we could have a tour. We could not hear you. If there's anything that you want to add or what you have shown, you can. So while we had the tour along with you on both the floors.
Okay, so is this visible to you right now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, can I just quickly take you on a tour once again?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think some problem with the audio. We still can't hear you.
Can you see me though?
We can see everything, but I think there's some problem with the audio. We can't hear you. Uh, I don't know how we would be able to resolve that. But we've gone through the entire tour, and this is the 2,000 plus square feet area, along with the seating which is outside that we have. Great. Thank you so much, Ashish. I don't know if you can hear us. Yeah.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Welcome back. Okay. So 6 is the date, Ashish, that we've decided. We'll reach out to all our prospective, partners who might be interested to have another round of discussion with you. And thank you once again for coming in. And we look forward to, having a very fruitful coming week. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Sonia. It was a pleasure talking to all you guys. And I hope the little bit of information that I presented was kind of helpful in some way. And like I said, feel free to give us a call and maybe, set up a meeting at the restaurant. That's when you'll actually kind of get an idea about how the outlet looks, in person. And we can take things forward from there then.
Sure, absolutely. Look forward, Ashish. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thank you so much, Ashish, to connect with us for this lovely webinar for your brand. Thank you so much, Sonia ma'am. All the dear participants, please do write. Thank you so much, Ashish.
All right, bye.
Please do write to us at our business hotline number, which is 97176 We request each one of you to save this number in your phone book so that you get a regular updates from our site. Do share your suggestions and feedback at the same business hotline number. Also, you can connect with us, get in touch with us at different social handles. You want to see all the previously done brands webinar, different submit, please visit us at the Facebook page of Franchise India Brands Limited. Go under video section so that you can enjoy all the previously done webinars. You can also write and connect with Gaurav sir and Sonia ma'am at their respective LinkedIn IDs, information on your screen. And tomorrow, under 252nd edition of this series, we invite you to join us for Book My Fuel. Once you do a registration, you get a confirmation mail from our side. It's a concept where on demand, a brand is providing the fuel supplies, and tomorrow they'll be talking about what kind of a franchise you can take from them. So do registration today so that you can join us tomorrow. Thank you so much once again for joining in today. Have a great day ahead. Stay safe, stay happy, be happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, friends.